Hello everyone, Storm101 here. Today we'll be taking a look at my secondary winter 2020-21 forecast here. We'll be taking a look at NOAA's latest forecast, which at the time of making this video has been released 2 days ago, and my thoughts on their forecast. We'll also be taking a look into the ENSO region as well. We'll also take a look into some models and of course my forecast, which includes temperature, precipitation, snowfall, and the overall forecast as well. We're going to begin with NOAA's winter forecast here. And as you can see here, um, showing some below average temperatures across the Pacific Northwest, even extending into the Northern Plains there as well. Pretty warm across sections of the South there, even including the Northeast as well. Do I agree or disagree? I honestly do agree with our forecast here. Not completely, maybe a little bit too warm across the Northeast, but really everywhere else I kind of do agree here. Maybe troughing could be a little bit stronger across the plains in the upper Midwest there, but in general, I do agree with our forecast here, kind of similar to mine there. Spoiler alert there. Let's take a look into the precipitation forecast here, and we're just looking on a different graphic here. It's the same forecast, just looking into a different graphic here. And here's the precipitation. And I actually do agree with this about 100% here. Dry across the south there, pretty good chance across portions of New Mexico and Texas. There was an 80% chance with some below average precipitation. A pretty good chance of some above average precipitation across portions of Montana, Washington, Idaho, into North Dakota. Another area of above average precipitation across portions of the lower Ohio Valley into the Great Lakes. Overall, I do agree with her forecast. Putting both of them together, I do agree with her forecast there, and that's why I'm similar to why I'm thinking what can happen this winter. Kind of a little bit of a change on the ENSO a little bit. I'm actually forecasting a moderate La Nina, and I believe on the last winter forecast, I was talking about probably a weak La Nina. I'm thinking about a moderate La Nina actually may occur, which what that kind of does is makes the southeast ridge a little bit stronger, so really along the east coast can have a little bit of a better chance of seeing some warmer than average temperatures there as well. It could be a little bit drier as well. But anyways, this is the typical La Nina pattern here. It's usually colder across the northern plains. It's also wetter across the desert not the desert, the Pacific Northwest, even including northern California. Another area of wetter than average conditions will be across the Tennessee Valley to the Ohio Valley into portions of the Great Lakes. It's dry across the south and even warm across the south as well. That's pretty much your typical La Nina pattern. And this is the sea surface temperatures right now. You got what's starting to get close to a moderate La Nina at this point here. It's a very strong signal of La Nina conditions here, pretty much covering nearing the entire ENSO here, although it's trying to warm up a little bit in this general region here, but overall, we got a La Nina going on. Other things to mention here is there's some very warm sea surface temperatures along the west coast there that could try to help create some ridging there. It's also warm across the east coast, although that may change a little bit later into October, into November here, where we're going to be seeing probably a few more systems after this video here, and it may cool down in the western Atlantic here. It's also cooler than normal across this region right in here. I believe it's called the Hudson Bay. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's also a little bit warmer around Greenland. That's actually what's causing a lot of troughing. That was one of the things, a lot of troughing in the central eastern United States because we're in a negative NAO pattern here and also a positive PDO. And that gives a strong indication of troughing across the central eastern United States. And that's what we're currently experiencing right now. Could that continue for the winter? Those things are pretty hard to predict, but one way to kind of give us a little idea of it is look for some of these models. So this is a Jamstack model. This is four models put into one as an average. You can see here they do expect La Nina conditions in the ENSO region. Could be a little bit too weak there. We're going to see about that. Very warm around Greenland there. It's also extremely warm around the United States, which I highly doubt that. I mean, that's a major doubt for me. It's also warmer across portions of the Eastern Pacific. There as well, a little bit closer to West Coast. That could create some ridging across the west. That is a possibility there. And plus, adding on top of that, you got very warm temperatures around Greenland. That could lead to some Greenland blocking there. So your cold air may not go there. It actually may go somewhere else. And I think the better chance of where it's going to be going will be across western Canada into portions of Alaska, and even sinking down into across the northern plains in the Pacific Northwest there. In fact, that's where some of the most of that cold air will be sticking around. And it's just got updated a couple days ago, so this is a fresh run here. If we look to some other models here, this is the CFS here. This is on a 3-month average. You can see here generally in the entire United States above average. One thing to note is that there's some ridging going on across the south central United States there. That could kind of change up a lot of things there. That could kind of tell us that maybe troughing won't be across the North Plains here. Could be more, in the Pacific Northwest or maybe even into the eastern United States. That's a possibility. Although, there is a downside to this. Look around Greenland. Cooler than normal conditions. What's that indicate? A positive NAO. And I'm also been going back and forth on this here, but if this verifies here, most of your cold air may just stick around across eastern Canada into around Greenland there. Some good news here, however, there will be a negative AO here. Hopefully I got that right. Negative AO, usually you get warmer than average conditions across, the Arctic Circle. And that kind of makes a wavy jet stream there for multiple troughs to go around across the globe in the northern hemisphere. And that's kind of what that is there. And when we look into the Kansas model, it's a little bit different. The AL is the same thing, although the positive NAL is not as strong as what the CFS was showing. However, I think Kansas model may have a little bit better handle with this here, with some of the troughing moving across portions of Alaska and western Canada there, which kind of gives some good news there across the Pacific Northwest. However, when you look across the south central United States into the eastern United States, there's ridging going on. But I don't think it's going to be that strong. However, there, if we go back here, take a look to precipitation here, and I should have moved this here in the first place, but here you go. Weather to normal conditions across the Pacific Northwest, which I highly agree. Very dry across California there, dry across the central and several plains, even into the southeast. A little bit wetter than normal across portions of the mid-Mississippi Valley into the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, into maybe perhaps the Northeast as well. Overall, I do agree with the precipitation forecast for the Jamstack. If we look into the CFS for precipitation, it's dry across most of California. It's even dry across the desert southwest, which unfortunately they're still extremely dry. They really need rain, but unfortunately it looks like the dry weather may continue through the winter there. It's also dry across the several plains into the southeast. It is wetter than normal across the Pacific Northwest into portions of the northern plains. Wetter than normal conditions across the Great Lakes into portions of the mid-Mississippi Valley, the lower Ohio Valley there. Even maybe perhaps in New England states there could see some above average precipitation there. And that's from the CFS model there. And when we take a look into the Kansas model, weather to normal across the Pacific Northwest. So far, there's a really good agreement for some above average precipitation across the Pacific Northwest, which is some good news there for us as forecasters and also for the Pacific Northwest because not only they can get for us it's easier to forecast for the Pacific Northwest, it probably have a better chance of getting the forecast right for the Pacific Northwest there. They can also see a really good winter with some of that above average precipitation, especially when troughing is nearby here, pretty much forecasted for Western Canada into Alaska there. And what that can do is bring in some big storm systems, could bring some heavy snow across the mountains, even for some of the lower elevations as well if the temperatures are cool enough for that. What we also do have a better agreement of is dry weather across California to portions of Nevada, into the desert southwest, the far southern plains, into the southeast. That's something we also have a pretty good agreement on there. And really, it generally portions of Great Lakes northeast, slightly above average with rainfall there, although that could be underdone there, for I think there. And something I almost forgot here, and this is something cool that I want to show you guys here, is we do have the UK and also as well as the European model for snowfall anomalies here. Now, right as of right now, I don't have the European model loaded up here. That will take a little bit too much time. Although I'll show you guys the UK when at least, and I'll tell you guys what the European model is showing. So we'll start off with December here. You got well above average snowfall forecasted across the Pacific Northwest into the Rockies. You got well below average snowfall across the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, the Great Lakes, the Plains, you know, just a lot of areas below average with snowfall. However, look across portions of Kentucky and Tennessee, actually showing some above average snowfall, which in these areas here, we haven't seen above average snowfall in years. It has been a long time since we've seen some above average snowfall, which is a pretty good sign for us here in Kentucky, even to portions of Tennessee. Above average snowfall even includes portions of North Dakota, Minnesota, into Wisconsin here. I mean, some areas I do agree. I do agree with the above average regions, but I do disagree some areas for the below average regions. For example, I disagree generally for the Great Lakes, for portions of the Midwest, and the Central Plains. I disagree with that area. I do agree somewhat for the Mid-Atlantic to the Northeast. I think it's a little bit overdone with the below normal snowfall. But I'll tell you guys what the European model is showing. It's actually showing stuff is similar to the last winter here, which to keep in mind, the UK model and the European model actually did a pretty good job last winter. Below average snowfall across the Tennessee Valley all the way up to the Northeast. They were actually correct about that, and that's what they predicted last winter, and they actually done a pretty good job with that. But this is just only December, however. Let's move on to January here. Look at here. Above average snowfall across portions of the Mississippi Valley, even across the southeast. That's actually quite surprising there. Below average snowfall across the northeast and the mid-Atlantic states. Well above average snowfall across the Rockies as well. Even some below average snowfall for the desert southwest as well. Again, for some of those areas, especially across the mid-Mississippi Valley to the Tennessee Valley, Lower Ohio Valley, this is some good news for us here. And this is we really need, as cold as snowy winter, we're pretty much due to a snowy winter, which it may come this winter, but we're going to see about that. Then lastly, you got February here, got below average snowfall across, portions of California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, into New Mexico. Above average snowfall across the Rockies, even into portions of Northern California. Below average snowfall across the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic states. Above average snowfall across North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, to Wyoming and Montana, in central Colorado as well. So in general, what this model here is predicting, well above average snowfall across the Rockies, well below average snowfall across the Mid-Atlantic to the Northeast, above average snowfall across North Dakota, Minnesota into Wisconsin, and also above average snowfall across really the mid-Mississippi Valley to the Tennessee Valley and the lower Ohio Valley. It's pretty much what it's predicting. In the European model, it's a little bit different here. It's actually showing more below average across more of the Mississippi Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and the lower Ohio Valley, but we're going to see about that there. And let's take a look to my forecast here, my updated forecast. We're going to start off with temperatures here, and this is what my general thoughts on here. So anybody in the dark blue, which includes portions of Montana, you got North Dakota, northeastern South Dakota, most of Minnesota into northern Wisconsin, upper Michigan, you guys will see some below average temperatures. Meanwhile, going into Washington State to portions of northern Idaho, most of Montana, northeastern Wyoming into most of South Dakota, the eastern half of Nebraska into northern Missouri, Iowa, southern Wisconsin, a good chunk of Michigan, northeastern Missouri, most of Illinois into central northern Indiana, and even including northern Ohio. Areas that is no color or in the EC region, that means equal chances, or you can say it's average. You guys at times can see some above average temperatures or even some below average temperatures as well. So it's going to be kind of back and forth type of thing there, which it goes the same way for precipitation and snowfall, which I'll show you guys that in just a moment. In the areas in the orange, across the Gulf Coast states there, that's where we could be seeing some above average temperatures. Areas in the yellow, which includes the desert southwest into Dixie Alley, the several plains up along the east coast into the New England states. That's where we'll be seeing some slightly above average temperatures. Although, keep in mind this is not a final forecast. Some of the stuff here will likely change. Moving on to my precipitation forecast here. Um, the Pacific Northwest can see some above average rain precipitation. Uh, Generally, the Central and Northern Plains, the Midwest, portions of the Great Lakes, portions of the Tennessee Valley. Those regions there can see some slightly above average precipitation. The Tennessee Valley into the Ohio Valley, those regions can see some above average precipitation. EC means equal chances, or you can say it's average, which includes portions of California to Nevada, Utah, portions of Colorado, down through portions of the Southern Plains into portions of the Dixie Alley, and eventually going up into the northeastern United States as well. Across the south here, uh, below average precipitation across portions of Arizona, New Mexico into portions of Texas. There's even another area below average precipitation across the southern tip of Florida, even for Key West as well. Then you got slightly below average for the similar regions, but it also includes the east coast, the coastlines of of the Carolinas there as well. Snowfall here. Above average snowfall likely for the Pacific Northwest into especially for the Rockies as well, although those areas may get expanded to more of the central Rockies, but we'll see about that. Above average snowfall for the Great Lakes into portions of the Midwest. There as well, like Illinois, Indiana, portions of Missouri, and portions of Ohio. Slightly above average snowfall across the central and northern plains, portions of the Midwest there, even including the portions of the Ohio Valley as well. EC means equal chances, or average, which includes portions of the Southern Plains, Central Plains, the Tennessee Valley, into the interior Northeast, even back into Northern California as well. This black area here is across the South. That means no snow on average here, which is true. Usually these areas here in the black don't get snow on average, and I highly doubt these areas here will see snow this winter. So we'll just put it that way there. Areas in the light brown, that's where we'll likely see some slight below average snowfall, which even includes along these coast area as well. But again, this here can change. Alright, so now my overall forecast here will go from west to east. So the Pacific Northwest, most of Washington, northern Oregon, most of Idaho, western Montana, even including northwestern Wyoming, you guys will have a jackpot, which it means you guys will see a decent amount of cold and also tons of snow. So I'm sure a lot of you guys will be excited for that, and I'm pretty confident in that area there as well. There's another area jackpot, which includes portions of Great Lakes. Then it goes back into most of Illinois, Indiana, into northwestern Ohio. Those are areas that can see, similar conditions like the Northwest will, but there will also be the possibility for some blizzards as well. So just to keep in mind of that. Areas in the pink there, the northern plains in the upper Midwest, you'll likely see some Arctic blasts. There will also be a couple or even a few winter storms that go through those areas as well. Areas in the light blue, which includes, central Wyoming, then eventually through Nebraska, northeastern Kansas, into southern Iowa. Most of Missouri, you guys will see clipper systems, which is really weak low pressure systems that come from Canada, and they can bring some snow showers that could put down anywhere from a coating to maybe a couple inches of snow as well. So not too big of a deal there. There'll also be some Arctic blasts at times as well. Areas in the yellow, flip-flop pattern. We'll see the pattern kind of go back and forth. There'll probably be times where you guys can see some troughing, maybe some snow, and maybe some warm and dry conditions. It'll be going back and forth as well, just depending on how strong the ridge across the south would be. Areas across the south into portions of the east coast, you guys will be seeing some warm and dry conditions there. Pretty self-explanatory. Areas in the red, which includes Tennessee, Kentucky, eastern Ohio, western West Virginia, western Pennsylvania, even into southwestern New York. These are areas that could be seeing some severe weather where we can see some big systems. Here, especially when they start to turn to the north, they can deepen. They could bring in some severe weather across some of these regions. There can also be some flooding issues where some of those storms can be training over for some of the same areas. So there will also be some flooding issues as well. Areas in the green, which includes anywhere from northern Mississippi through Alabama into northern Georgia, and then kind of going into the interior northeast through portions of the mid-Atlantic states. Generally would be stormy conditions. Some areas could see the possibility for some severe weather, although not 100% sure about that yet, but the possibility is there. Then the last region, which is across the northeastern United States, most of Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. You guys will probably be seeing mostly an average winter here, average temperatures, average precipitation, average snowfall, and I think you guys could see a good winter this year as well, just to keep in mind of that. Now, that's pretty much the weather forecast there. Do expect this to change since it's not the final forecast. Likely the final forecast will be coming in to December here pretty soon. But anyways, guys, this is Arc for guys today. Hope you guys did enjoy this winter forecast. If you guys like this forecast, hit that like button. If you really do like my channel, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, you can put in the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys' questions. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.